So the brand new story this week about the richest Americans and how much they pay in taxes. It's from ProPublica. Most important, of course, part of the entire report was how the hell do you pronounce ProPublica?
One of the co-authors of that report, Jesse Eisinger, is here. He's a ProPublica senior reporter and editor.
Okay, ProPublica, right? I've always called it ProPublica. The problem, though, is the Latin publica. Publica. That's how I guess you're, is that how you're supposed to check out this guy?
An investigation by NBC News and ProPublica found that...
Right? Is it Publica or is it Publica? Because if it's Publica, I've definitely been pronouncing the Republican Party wrong my entire life. Not to mention, I've been embarrassing myself every time I walk into a Banana Republic. And I will say, I don't think poob is a bad word, but calling someone a Publica sounds like a really nasty insult. Anyway, you have to assume that their own employees at least know how to say it. So let's see.
And we have many more stories to come, and you can reach us with tips at ProPublica at our service page.
Okay, so it is ProPublica. Of course, if someone pronounced it wrong, like right to their face to the exact same reporter, he would be sure to correct him, right?
Jesse Eisinger from ProPublica. Great scoop. Thank you.
Oh, well, we didn't get him responding, so that didn't make much sense. Okay, so we now know we have an organization with highly suspect, he didn't correct him, that was the joke. A highly suspect name that no one knows how to pronounce. We know that's ProPublica. But what about their report? They acquired tons of tax records from the ultra rich. And we will totally ignore how they got those records because it had to be completely legal. And by the way, we should point out the exact same excuse was used by social media companies to ban the Hunter Biden story. It was illegally acquired information. We can't possibly allow it on our service. That obviously doesn't matter anymore. So how do they claim the rich are screwing everyone?
Average people need income to pay for basics like housing and food. But the ultra wealthy don't. They can just live on borrowed cash. Step 1, buy. The ultra wealthy buy an asset or build a company or inherit a fortune. As long as they don't sell, they owe no taxes.
Okay, did you notice any issues with that at all? They buy something and then they don't get taxed at all. Well, first of all, depending on what they buy, they may pay, sales tax or a million other taxes. But that's not what I'm talking about. You see, the money they are spending already has been taxed. What you are asking for is a second tax on the same money. It gets taxed at the beginning, and then they build this amazing company, and because of that, you want them punished and taxed again when they spend it. Gotcha. So, what do they do with these evil assets?
Step 2, borrow. They borrow against their holdings, and the bank gives them a really good deal.
Those bastards! Why didn't they hold out for a crappy deal? They should have demanded the exact same interest rate as the bankrupt vagrant who lives behind the Confederate statue in the town green. Of course, anyone could do a version of this, and many of us do it all the time. For example, a home equity loan. That's what they're describing. You buy something, in this case a house, it appreciates in value, and then you borrow against that value. You aren't taxed on that loan like it's income because that would be completely insane. Obviously, us regular people are doing this on a smaller scale, but it's not uncommon at all. Then comes the big secret of the ultra wealthy. Yes, they've got all the benefits, don't they? They get so lucky at the end of their lives. Listen how.
Step 3, die. When they die, these lucky few often use complicated trusts and philanthropic foundations to avoid the estate tax.
These lucky few dead people. They get to be dead. And then they get to put their money in a trust or charitable organization to avoid the estate tax. Unlike regular people who, never pay the estate tax in any situation. Nor should they, by the way. Taxing someone for being dead is completely immoral, and any person should be able to give their money to their kids without the dumb government in the way. But these evil rich people have to work at it. That's right. Instead of just giving it to their kids, they have to come up with complicated tax structures so that their entire lives' work isn't stolen from them and wasted by a corrupt bunch of do-nothing dolts. How dare they be offended by that idea? By the way, sure, people like Jeff Bezos have a pretty sweet life. I will not deny that. They have all the money they'll ever be able to spend and more. But that's the end of the story. Amazon of today is the end of the story. The beginning looked like this. There's Jeff Bezos in his crappy office with a table, not even a desk, and a terribly spray-painted Amazon.com logo on the wall that is not even close to being evenly placed on the wall. He built a business from scratch that would later go on to get the entire freaking country through the most deadly pandemic in a century. I'm so sorry, Washington, that you don't get to take more of his hard-earned money. What an incredible inconvenience to you bastard politicians. Surely you should be able to take any amount of his life's possessions that you desire to take. That will make America a truly fair place. You people suck. However, what we're really talking about right now is not buy, borrow, die as a strategy, which, by the way, great work, rich people. That's an awesome strategy, and I hope to execute it someday. Thanks for the tip. The real news here is ProPublica, and their report is that apparently, and this is going to be a shock, billionaires do not unilaterally institute a wealth tax on themselves when they live in a country without one. I know, I was stunned too. You see, because ProPublica is trying to say that rich people are not paying their fair share of income tax. And they summarize it with like a graphic like this from, of course, the report on ProPublica. The total taxes paid, $23.7 million on $24.3 billion. That's only 0.1%, as you can clearly see on the screen. That is insane. Before we move on to how disingenuous this all is, I want you to notice the name, Warren Buffett. If what these rich people are saying and doing is wrong, the worst offender of all the rich people in the entire ProPublica report, the worst one, Warren Buffett, Obama voter, Clinton voter, Barack Obama endorser, that guy, the worst of all of them. I know, I was stunned. Anyway, look at that graphic once again. He's not paying 0.1% in income tax unless you completely transform how you calculate income tax and tax percentages. His actual tax rate, which for some reason they don't show you, is 19%, $24 million in taxes paid on $125 million in income. Now, you might still think that is too low. To be clear, I do not. But it is 190 times as much as they put in the graphic. Why? Because they are trying to fool you into thinking your wealth gets taxed. It's not journalism. It's advocacy for Elizabeth Warren's blatantly unconstitutional wealth tax. To be clear, Warren Buffett didn't sell those assets, so he doesn't have that money. It's all on paper. Ask the people over at what used to be the 7th largest company in the world, Enron, if you can always depend on your paper wealth continuing to increase. What they are doing at ProPublica is changing the denominator of a well-known statistic to make it feel much, much worse than it is. For example, in basketball, your shooting percentage is how many shots you make divided by how many shots you take. Everyone knows that. If you watch sports, you make half of your shots, you're shooting 50%. But what if I, Stu Publica, just decided to make a little change? Now, instead, shooting percentage will be the shots you make divided by the shots you take plus the amount of times you've dribbled in your whole life. All of a sudden, your shooting percentage sucks, doesn't it? Does that tell you a real story? No! And yes, if you read the ProPublica story, you can figure it out if you know what to look for. But I honestly think they are trying to fool people. And I don't even mean idiots on the internet. For example, here's a screenshot from an NBC News report. As you can see, Buffett apparently earned $125 million, and his true tax rate, whatever the hell that is, they tried to explain it in the report, but it's basically them just making up a statistic, that is 0.1%. But that's not what the numbers on the screen would indicate at all. Do the math of the numbers that you can actually see and you would get 19%. Or Elon Musk, he paid $455 million in taxes on $1.52 billion in earnings. Do the math, it's about 30%. But their graphic says 3.27%. How many in the audience are really going to pick that up? Did the person who even made the graphic know what they're doing? Part of me doubts it. And to show you just how dumb this way of looking at taxes is, what happens if Amazon stock went down? Then Jeff Bezos and his total wealth would go down. Negative numbers. Are they going to be releasing a report about how Jeff Bezos is paying infinity% in taxes? I doubt it, but that's what you'd have to do to be consistent. Of course, that hypothetical report would be stupid, which tells you quite clearly that this very real report is also stupid. All of this is wrapped around a class envy argument. Why do they get to have all that money when I don't? This used to be criticized as a weakness in character. Look at them, always keeping up with the Joneses. Now it's been rebranded as income inequality, and suddenly it's a virtue. But here's the thing. Change the laws so that Jeff Bezos has to pay taxes on the same money 3 or 4 times instead of just the 2 he has to now, and something amazing will happen. Just like he's able to somehow come up with a way to avoid taxes now, he will figure out a way to avoid them in the future. Whether it's some other smart tax strategy, or it's the strategy of getting on his private jet and going to a country that doesn't outwardly hate him because he's done something with his life. To paraphrase Thomas Sowell, the minimum wage is not $7.25 an hour, it is 0. Raise the wage too high and you'll be out of a job. The same goes for billionaires. If you don't like getting 19% or 30%, perhaps 0% will serve you better. If you really don't want the $973 million in taxes from one man, Jeff Bezos, then good. Get greedy enough and you won't get a single cent. Hi, Stu Bergier of Stu Does America here. Thanks so much for watching our video. Did you know you can watch our entire catalog for free right here on our channel? Subscribe now and be sure to hit the thumbs up button on all the episodes you watch, because that's how they know you like this stupid show. And that little bell in the corner as well, make sure you click that. You'll get notifications every time we post new content. Stu Does America every weekday at 8 p.m. Eastern right here.